Hello, welcome to this video on DigComp Edu Strand 3.4 Self-Regulated Learning. This video will look at self-regulated learning strategies, in particular teaching and learning activities. The purpose of this video is to explore teaching strategies that support self-regulated learning. Research shows that self-regulated learning needs to be explicitly taught. Teaching strategies focus on the process of learning and model or explicitly teach this are important. It's important to specifically teach options such as providing choice, how to set goals, how to plan and break down tasks, how to decide which resources to select, and identify time allocation for specific tasks. In addition, facilitating peer assessment and feedback and modelling this supports students to monitor for progress. Identifying how they can examine their feelings and how to negate bad feelings and reflect on areas that have worked for them is critically important. There are several strategies to support self-regulated learning. You may decide to choose one of these to start, pilot it, and observe the impact. You can gradually add more teaching and learning activities to support the different components of self-regulated learning. Each strategy serves a specific aspect of the learning process. The key is starting small and building systematically. One of the teaching and learning activities to support self-regulated learning is the provision of choice. This is where students can choose something they want to explore, or they may choose how they want to express their learning. It's important to ask them why they've made these choices to make and teach self-regulated learning strategies. In particular, this supports goal setting and metacognition because it allows them to identify what they want to achieve, what they want to explore, and how they want to express it. The why facilitates metacognition. Another teaching and learning strategy is co-construction. Co-construction involves working with students to develop a piece of knowledge or a learning environment. For example, you might work with the students to co-create what they want their classroom to look like. Rules in the classroom, rules on group work, when assignments can be submitted. Or you could facilitate the assessment process by the co-construction of rubrics or assessment briefs. This is where students might evaluate different outputs. So for example, if a student has to produce an essay, you might look at good and bad essays. You might get AI to generate essays and evaluate what this looks like and what a good or appropriate essay looks like. From this, you might construct a rubric. So what are the elements of a good lesson or essay and why it makes it important? Again, the why in terms of why they make these decisions is important to facilitate goal setting and metacognition. Another teaching strategy to facilitate self-regulated learning is supporting students to decide on pacing and determining when they're ready to move to another topic. Providing a poll to ask them if they are ready to move on, or they want a revision, or they want the teacher to go over material. This can facilitate self-monitoring and self-evaluation. Sequencing is another area that can facilitate self-regulated learning. Students might decide how to complete an activity. They might not follow the linear approach that the teacher has chosen. Instead, the teacher might explain 3 or 4 tasks they have to do, and the student can decide which task they start with. This facilitates goal setting and choice. Also, self and peer assessment can facilitate self-regulated learning. Students may use the co-created rubrics we discussed earlier to self and peer assess and provide feedback. So for example, students might have to create a draft of work, and using the rubric they will give it to a colleague who will use the rubric to assess it and provide feedback. Similarly, they might decide to self-assess using the co-created rubric and complete feedback for themselves before they submit. This allows them to be able to evaluate their own work and determine if it's of good quality. Self-reflection is a critical area of self-regulated learning. Introducing activities where students reflect on past successes and why they were successful is critically important. This helps them to identify strategies that supported success. Also providing opportunities to monitor how they are feeling and what they are struggling with. Monitoring check sheets or tools in Microsoft Teams can facilitate that. We will look at more technologies later. In addition, reflecting on what worked within the learning process and what they can apply to other contexts facilitates self-evaluation. Student-led instruction is a critical form of self-regulated learning. This is where, rather than the teacher teaching each topic of an area, students might choose a topic to focus on and teach each others. This facilitates goal setting and strategic planning. If students present this, there might be opportunities for peer assessment, feedback, and question construction that can lead to self-checks. Preparing students for setbacks is critically important and can form a key part of teaching and learning activities. Normalising challenges and telling stories of famous figures that have struggled in a particular topic may facilitate this. Also, teaching explicitly about growth mindset and it's about what you learn is critically important. Check-ins during the learning process, which encourages students to maybe submit how they're feeling, allows this teacher to identify where students might be feeling frustrated, and identifying strategies to help them to regulate are critically important. During goal setting, students might also identify things that might happen in terms of where they might struggle. So if they identify a goal and the tasks to achieve this goal, they might identify areas where they might struggle and co-create strategies to use when they're struggling. For example, a strategy of stopping the activity and noticing their feelings, thinking why they are struggling, and trying something different. If this fails, asking for help. This facilitates self-monitoring and regulation. Self-regulated learning provides a variety of different tasks and activities. The teaching strategies we've chosen look at opportunities for setting goals by providing choice, co-construction, opportunities for students to sequence their own learning, and student-centered instruction. They all support students in setting meaningful goals. Metacognition, providing opportunities to encourage students to think about why they made these specific decisions, particularly in goal setting, and choices about their strategy of education is critically important. Providing opportunities for self-monitoring, stopping learning, encouraging students to check in on their feelings and how they're doing is really, really important to facilitate emotional states and identify opportunities for them to self-regulate. Lastly, encouraging self-evaluation through self and peer assessment, along with reflection, supports students in evaluating their learning processes and outcomes. To summarise, when you're getting started with self-regulated learning, it's important to start small. Choose one strategy or teaching and learning strategy and observe the impact. Gradually build your self-regulated approach, teaching learning approach, to support all components of self-regulated learning. Remember, self-regulated learning is often a continuum of learning processes. It's important to choose one strategy that resonates with your teaching context and reflecting it as it works. Also, speaking to your students about their experiences helps to facilitate further development in the area.